the blade that pierces chaos. When you are facing an opponent, it is essential to constantly keep in mind the thought of piercing his face with the tip of your sword. The moment the opponent tries to dodge, you have already won. These words from Miyamoto Musashi are not instructions for violence. They are a brutal metaphor for something that defines his entire emotional existence. The difference between being consumed by emotions and remaining motionless in the center while storms rage around. Imagine discovering that every outburst of anger that destroyed a relationship, every panic that paralyzed an opportunity, every uncontrolled passion that ruined your career happened not because you were weak, but because no one taught you the hidden secret that samurai discovered centuries ago. Emotions are not enemies to be fought. They are masters in disguise, each teaching something essential that rational analysis could never grasp. This isn't another video about emotional control or breathing techniques that work for 5 minutes. I won't give you positive affirmations that evaporate at the first real crisis. What you're about to discover comes from a tradition tested on battlefields where emotional failure meant death. Knowledge that Musashi distilled into the 5 rings after 60 deadly duels without ever losing. This knowledge has been fragmented, misinterpreted, reduced to combat techniques, when in fact it is a complete system of emotional mastery. The central paradox that will explode everything you believe. Emotional mastery is neither rigid control nor uncontrolled expression. It is fudo, mental stability that remains still while everything moves. It is mushin no shin, a mindless mind, where the correct answer emerges naturally without interference from judgment or fear. And in this video, for the first time, you will receive the complete 5 rings map applied to your modern emotional warfare. Welcome to Axiom Sage, where ancient samurai wisdom meets the invisible emotional struggles of modern life. This is Miyamoto Musashi's samurai secret to mastering your emotions. Why every strategy you tried has failed. Do you know that internal war? Something deeply irritates you. Anger builds. You have 2 culturally accepted options. Explode, scream, lash out, let it all out, or repress, swallow, pretend you're okay, smile while dying inside. Our culture oscillates desperately between these strategies, as if they were opposites, when in fact they are sides of the same prison that holds you hostage to every emotion that arises. When you explode, the amygdala hijacks the prefrontal brain. You act in ways you'll regret, damaging relationships, reinforcing destructive patterns. Then culture says, get a better grip on yourself. You try the other strategy, brutal repression. You force a smile when you want to cry. You swallow your anger when you want to scream. And it works, until the inevitable collapse. An explosion 10 times more violent, or psychosomatic illness, or complete desensitization where you stop feeling anything. Richard Davidson, a neuroscientist who studies meditators, discovered something revolutionary. Both bursting and suppression keep the amygdala chronically hyperactivated. Both chronicize stress because they treat emotion as an enemy. But equanimity isn't the absence of emotion. It's a conscious response rather than an automatic reaction. It's feeling anger without being possessed by anger. Feeling fear without being paralyzed by fear. Musashi taught this in the Ring of Earth. Emotions need a solid foundation of discipline to avoid becoming chaos. Earth is not rigidity. It is the stability that sustains all forces. When you have no foundation, any strong emotion will bring you down. But when you cultivate fudo, emotions can roar with full force and you remain present, aware, able to respond appropriately. You're not weak for feeling anger or fear. You're using flawed strategies that culture taught you, but that have never worked for anyone. And you're missing a key piece that samurai discovered, but that has been lost in modern translation. The lost lineage of emotional alchemy. There's a reason Musashi structured knowledge into 5 elements. It wasn't an arbitrary organization. It was a complete map of emotional transformation that had endured for centuries, fragmented and misunderstood. Miyamoto Musashi lived in 17th century feudal Japan. Orphaned at 7, a ronin at 13, he won his first mortal duel at 16. Over the course of his life, he fought 60 battles without ever losing. But his true mastery lay not in sword technique. It lay in remaining mentally still while chaos unfolded around him. At 60, He retreated to the cave and distilled everything into the book of 5 rings: earth, water, fire, wind, void. Buddha, 500 years before Christ, taught something similar through the concept of equanimity. Observing emotions without identification dissolves their tyranny. You are not the anger you feel. You are the awareness that perceives anger. Lao Tzu, in the Tao Te Ching, codified Wu Wei applied to emotions. When you stop fighting what you feel, you paradoxically find peace. Bodhidharma, the founder of Zen, combined meditation with martial discipline because cultivated silence creates space to respond consciously when intense emotions arise. These masters, separated by centuries and thousands of miles, converge on identical truth. Emotions are not problems to be eliminated. They are natural forces to be understood, respected, and channeled. The ring of water teaches fluidity through fear. The ring of fire transforms anger into a renewing force like Susanoo, god of storms. The ring of wind detaches from the vanity that binds the ego. The ring of void integrates everything into a consciousness that contains but is not contained. And here's the lost wisdom. Each ring corresponds to a specific emotional challenge of modern life. These aren't poetic metaphors. They're practical technology tested in life or death situations. If you're realizing there's a complete system here, not isolated techniques, write in the comments, "I cultivate Fudo," and subscribe by activating the bell, because now we'll apply this map to real transformation. When explosions become clarity. Let me tell you about Thomas. 32 years old, a financial trader in London, single. From the outside, professional success. From the inside, an emotional time bomb about to explode. Thomas would explode at colleagues over minor mistakes. He would go into paralyzing panic during presentations. He would ruin relationships because initial passion always turned into toxic, controlling obsession. He had tried everything modern culture offered. Therapy that helped him understand patterns but didn't change reactivity. Guided meditation that temporarily calmed but didn't work under real pressure. Even medication that grounded emotions without addressing the underlying structure that generated them. All of these addressed symptoms without addressing the architecture that created reactivity. It was after blowing up at his boss and nearly getting fired that Thomas stumbled upon a lecture on samurai philosophy. A quote from Musashi pierced his armor. "Emotions surge like waves in the ocean. A warrior doesn't try to stop the waves. He learns to surf." For the first time, Thomas considered a disturbing possibility. What if the problem wasn't feeling intense emotions, but not knowing what to do when they arose? Thomas began practicing something radical in its simplicity: the 3 warrior breaths protocol. Every time an intense emotion arose, anger, fear, frustration, he paused. He didn't try to suppress it. He didn't explode. He simply took 3 deep breaths, observing the sensation in his body. Where did he feel tension? Hot or cold? Heavy or light? Just observing without judging it as good or bad. Something extraordinary began to happen. A space emerged between feeling emotion and acting on it. 6 months later, Thomas is no longer an emotionless robot. He still feels anger when wronged. He still feels fear in the face of real risks. But something fundamental has changed. He is no longer kidnapped. Anger arises. He feels it fully, and then responds appropriately. Fear arises. He recognizes it as information, and then decides to act even with the fear present. He has discovered Mushin no Shin, the right answer that emerges when you stop interfering. The complete transmission of the 5 rings. Earth ring, the immovable foundation. Musashi taught that without a solid foundation of daily discipline, emotions become chaos. Earth isn't rigidity, it's stability cultivated through constant practice. Thomas began with 5 minutes of silence a day, simply observing his breath, not trying to control his thoughts, just training the attention muscle to return to the present. Neuroplasticity. The more you practice presence, the more automatic it becomes. Water ring, flowing with fear. Fear shouldn't be eliminated, it should flow. Water flows around obstacles without resistance. When Thomas felt panic before a performance, instead of fighting it, he acknowledged, "This is fear. It's here. I can feel it and still act." Patanjali called this pratyahara, a withdrawal that creates space between stimulus and response. This space is freedom. Ring of fire, transforming anger. Susanoo, god of storms, represents the anger that renews landscapes. The problem isn't feeling anger, it's being possessed by it. Thomas learned to ask anger, what are you protecting? Anger often reveals violated boundaries, disrespected values. When channeled consciously, it becomes a force that establishes healthy boundaries. Wind ring, narrative detachment. Vanity and dogmatism trap the ego in rigid stories about who you should be. Lao Tzu taught Wu Wei, when we stop fighting reality, we find peace. Thomas found that 90% of emotional suffering stems from unfulfilled expectations. Narratives about how life should be. Letting go of narratives isn't giving up. It's an intelligent surrender to what is. Void ring, consciousness that contains all. It's not the absence of emotions. It's recognizing that you are an ocean, not waves. Emotions arise and pass in the vast consciousness that you truly are. Carl Jung called this shadow integration. Denying negative aspects creates unconscious monsters. Embracing wholeness, light and shadow, creates integrity. If you feel each teaching touches something profound, leave a comment with which ring resonated most strongly. And if you want to continue this journey of mastery, subscribe and activate the bell. Each video here is a component of a complete architecture. Feeling Fudo now. Now you will directly experience what Thomas discovered. Bring to mind a recent situation that generated strong emotion. Let the feeling arise. Don't run away. Feel where it is in your body. Tension in your jaw, tightness in your chest, heat in your face. Just observe without trying to change. Take 3 deep breaths. With each inhale, this is emotional energy. With each exhale, I am the observing consciousness. You are not the anger. You are the one who perceives the anger. This distinction is the portal. Ask the emotion, what are you trying to show me? Not intellectually, genuinely. Anger reveals violated boundaries. Fear reveals something valuable at risk. When you listen to emotion as a messenger, wisdom emerges. If you felt change, even subtle, you experience Fudo, center that remains stable while emotions flow. When 5 become 1. The 5 rings are not separate practices. They are aspects of a single mastery. Earth creates a foundation. Water teaches fluidity. Fire transforms. Wind attaches. Emptiness integrates everything into a consciousness that contains, but is not contained. When Thomas first practiced, each ring was conscious, almost mechanical. But after months of repetition, something changed. They merged. He didn't need to remember. He simply responded appropriately. Presence became the default, not the exception. This is what masters called Mushin no Shin, mindless mind. Not the absence of thought, but thought that doesn't interfere with a natural response. Like learning to walk, conscious at first, automatic later. Mastery is integrated so deeply that it becomes nature, the sword that does not fear use. So we come to the end, but also to the true beginning. Because everything revealed points to the ultimate truth. You are not your emotions. You are an ocean in which waves appear and disappear. Musashi spent his life mastering the sword. In his later years, he recognized, a sharp sword fears no use. Thus, the trained mind fears no emotion. The problem was never feeling. It was believing you were what you felt. And when you see through this illusion, when you recognize that you are consciousness in which emotions appear, liberation occurs. Dogen taught, enlightenment is not a final state. It is a moment-to-moment practice of mindful presence. Buddha taught equanimity, neither aversion nor attachment, only clear witnessing of what arises and passes. And here's the final paradox that seals it all. The power you sought outside has always been within. It doesn't require complex techniques or years of retreat. You simply need to recognize what has always been true. You are a vast space in which all experiences, including the most intense emotions, arise and pass without defining you. If this video has helped you resolve something in your relationship with emotions, comment, I am the ocean. Subscribe and activate the bell to continue this journey, where each video is a step in a complete architecture of transformation. Share it with someone who needs to hear this, because this wisdom is only valuable when applied. not just understood. As samurai discovered, you don't master emotions by denying them or exploding with them. You master them by cultivating a center so deep that it remains still while emotional storms rage on the surface. Axiom Sage, where samurai wisdom meets modern emotional warfare. Until the next forge.